So my name is Alexei. This is a company presentation, so I'll present what we do, and I will try to keep it reasonably short, so I don't kind of take a lot of your time, but at the same time I want to keep it reasonably simple so that we all on the same page. So what? Am I moving it here like this?
Yes.
Okay. This thing. Yeah. Okay. Okay. This thing. Let me try. Okay. So it's other way around. Okay. Okay. So before, lots of words here. I'm gonna draw one picture here, and that's probably the only thing you have to remember about the whole thing. So the industry we're working with is financial markets, right? And it looks like this. Those are, we call them banks, and we call them hedge funds or money managers, right? Hedge funds, or basically just money managers, right? And what happened before Tradefeedr is that every single one of them, I'll draw you one picture, right? Trades with every single one of them, right? So it's a very complicated picture. It's a network, and so on and so forth. So it's a very messy picture. So they trade with each other, which is okay. So what happens is, like the good example is, a money manager wants to buy something. He wants to buy a lot of Microsoft shares or a lot of euro-dollar or like currency pair, something like this. And they go to those banks and they say, I want to buy X amount. And that's fine. For trading is great. And that's a diversity and that's a system you need. For data, then we want to do some analysis and we want to say, have I made the right decision? Is it something I need to do, or is it I can optimize? And for optimization, it's horrible because you have to talk to all the people, you have to normalize all the data and put the same format. So what Tradefeedr did, it did this. So the same people here, and we put this thing in the middle, and now they all normalized on the same platform. So I'll leave a picture here. So we moved from here to a much nicer picture. So this was the case before, this was the case after. So we believe we improved the data communication quite a lot in the system. And here's what we have. We have effectively, we've been inspired by open banking. Like you guys all know open banking. You do your transactions with a merchant, you go to your bank and you say, can I have my transactions? The same thing happens in financial markets. So we went to all the big money managers and we said, you trade with the banks, why don't you go and ask for your data? And we will help you to organize it, in a simplistic words, that's what it is. Buy-side customers, those people, the buy-side and sell-side. They demand normalized data, and the industry needs trusted party, which is us, to standardize this data and to make it available to all the counterparties. And they can do all sorts of things. They can modify it. There are obviously winners from this structure. You change the structure. You change from this side to this side, so it becomes considerably simpler. Some people like it, some people don't like it. This is a normal scenario. A good example would be if you go to the airport and you change your currency, like obviously it's a ripoff because they're going to charge you a lot for this. Like the question is, would it be better if you use Revolut? Okay, of course it will be better because you don't pay any transaction costs. It's not to that extent because professional money managers don't face the same kind of inefficiencies, but they face small inefficiencies on a much larger scale. So the money is actually much bigger because if they make slightly wrong decision, it can cost them considerably more money. And what we're doing here, we're just aggregating all the information. We're aggregating all the information post-trade, and we allow people to analyze it. So that's a nice picture here, same thing. So that's our presentational picture. Again, the data comes in here, standardized, normalized, and then banks kind of consume it. That is what we do, because our clients are quite sophisticated clients. We're not retail clients, we're institutions. We cannot ever hope to be more clever than those people. What we do, we create, but we have more data. We have more data structurally by construction, because every bank will have their own data and we have all the data. What we do, we normalize this data. For each client, we manage their own database. So you can think about this as a technical outsourcing, right? Instead of a bank or a client managing their database, and it's very like unpleasant work, and you have to do it, and you have to clean the data. We do it. We do all this because we do it for all the people in the industry. We can do it once, and we can do it well. Many people, if they do it, they don't do it well because they feel like it's like and it's a waste of resources. So it's efficiency. We do it well. But because we don't want to impose our views on people, we expose what we call API here. So application programming interface. So they can connect to our platform. They can see their own data. They can run some sort of optimization methods. So it's basically open architecture. We're in the middle, right here. It's not up to scale. If it was up to scale, Tradefeedr will be very small, and all these nodes will be very big, because those nodes are like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, so they're all big companies, and those nodes are also quite big. They're like big money managers. We're like a small fintech in the middle, but we have lots of data, and we allow them to use this data and optimize this data so they can make optimal decisions. And again, the main question people ask, why can't they do it themselves? Well, because nobody will set a common standard. It's very difficult for people to agree on common standards. Somebody else has to do it. And also because people don't really trust each other, right? One bank is never gonna be allowed to see other banks' data, while we can segregate it, and that's also a challenge for us, because we check what we do. Yeah.
Are you update your data in real time?
We at the moment are T plus 10 minutes. We don't need to be real time, because we're not a trading business. We don't facilitate trading, we facilitate analytics. Theoretically, I don't think we should even be real time, because it creates all sorts of other problems. A lot of people think that we should be even more than T plus 10 minutes, in fact, so that there is no sensitive information that we can even say we don't.
That was my second question, actually. Is it, can banks hide information they don't want to?
No, because it's a double entry system. So if a bank is trading with a counterparty, like every trade has two counterparties. So if JP Morgan executes a trade on behalf of AQR, which is a big fund, I'm using the names which are open because they actually like those names. I'm allowed to use them. So on behalf of AQR, then this data is submitted by JP Morgan, but we share it immediately with AQR. So if JP Morgan decides not to submit this data, AQR has another system, like a back office system, which contains similar data set, but not the same precision and not the same quality, right? The data existed before. It's not like this data it's not like people have this data, right? Because they settle those trades. They just never had it in a format which is easy to query and easy to analyze. They always had it in a format which is difficult to query and pretty much unusable, right? That's the only innovation. We didn't invent any new thing. And to answer your question, it will be very difficult for JP Morgan to hide it, because AQR will say, well, I executed this trade with you and I expected you to submit it. Where is this trade? And they will say, well, like, so no. In this environment, and I think there's one more point to this, is that this business wouldn't be possible 20 years ago, because we heavily rely on regulations and the regulatory pressure on banks. Because otherwise, Like 20 years ago, I've been in the market 20 years ago. If I came with this idea to banks and say, I have a great idea, I will normalize all your data, I will make sure clients trade efficiently, and by the way, you will pay for this, they will say, no, it's not going to happen, right? But now it can, because regulators are extremely influential, like all the people who control banks, who regulate banks, they can say, you have to do it, right? And banks have very little kind of way around it. But it's not like it's all bad for them. It's like in every setup, there are winners and there are losers, right? And our job was to encourage winners. I think it's much more interesting to talk about the company itself than it is about the specifics. So in every setup, there are winners. Like if I make markets more transparent, who is a winner? Well, clearly your exchange in the airport is a loser, right? Like because your dollars to your euros is not going to be 5%. It's going to be like very small now amount of percentage. In professional markets, those inefficiencies don't exist, but some inefficiencies do exist. And some people will be losers and some people will be winners. But banks don't have an ability to influence it. These are just some examples. And I think it assumes a lot of, which I don't want to assume a lot of knowledge about specific details. Well, one person in the audience clearly have it, but generally what it means is that if I, as a fund, have 10 counterparties, I trade with 10 people, each of them only sees 1/10 of my business. And they have no means of seeing anything else. And I don't want them to know the remaining 90% of my business. However, for business relationship, for communication purposes, from time to time, they want me to share with them how my overall business looks like. They say, how do I know your business is actually worth anything? I'm serving you. And the bankers can ask me this question. They say, how do I know you're worth my time, right? How do I know your business is actually useful? I'm giving you some services here, but what if I want more? What should I do to make more money from you and make more money for you, right? There's lots of these things. And to this end, like what a fund can do, they can share some information, but before Tradefeedr, it was done over some dodgy spreadsheet, which just goes around, and you send a spreadsheet and you say, here's your market share, here's what you have. And that was not very useful because you don't know who calculated it. There is a lot of noise around the data. With Tradefeedr, it's all one database, it's all verified. So all you have to do, you have to click a button and you have to enable the Tradefeedr to do it, because we never do anything without client approving it, because it's not our data, it's all our clients' data. So we do, this thing is basically, all it is saying, it's a pretty classical way to evaluate the performance. So this is like a trade time. And what you don't want to have, you don't want to have a client who trades with you and the market goes in their direction. Because as a market maker, you lose money. If you buy something from me and the market always goes up, it means I'm losing money because I cannot back-to-back your transaction. So I don't like you. I like you to buy and the market goes down, in which case I make money, or at least I like you to buy and the market is flat, right? And that's just a standard way of a client proving to a bank that his overall profile is not, what they say, toxic. Anyway, I wouldn't visit too much details, but ultimately the whole idea here is, the long-term idea is automate everything, right? So a client just connects to Tradefeedr, presses a couple of buttons, and the system tells him, if you want to trade in certain style, those are the best counterparties. If you want to trade in certain algorithmic trading, those are the best counterparties, right? So it's not. I want to. Okay. One more thing. What we do as a company, obviously, clients' data is clients' data, right? It's clients' property, and banks' data is bank's property, and also creates an interesting thing because every trade has two owners. There's no trade with one owner, right? There's a buyer and there's a seller. So we say whoever is in your database is your property, and it's a joint property, but it's not Tradefeedr property. However, what is Tradefeedr property? Is a joint data, a common data, aggregated data and anonymized. This we can show to the entire world, potentially, right? This is not anonymized data. This is like actually like, this is each algo. But the beauty of this is that, again, if you look at this picture, many banks, many clients. If I'm this client, I trade with these banks. I only see my data, right? I only see this piece. I don't see anything else. If I'm a bank, I only see my data. I don't see anything else. If I'm Tradefeedr, I see everything. What do I want to know is this guy. I want to know who is the best bank. This bank, this bank, this bank, and it normally varies depending on the market condition. What Tradefeedr can do, we don't need to be very clever, we just have more data. We can aggregate this data, build some simple models, and we can say, this is your Markowitz optimization reversed, so this is more risk, more return. You want to be here. If you're a client, you can say, alga 8 or alga 7 are the best algas, and this alga you don't touch, don't even bother, right? They're like bad, they're slow, and they cost you money. This is all fake stuff, right? But there's nothing real here. This is just for presentational purposes, but the real data looks very similar. As a client, you log in and you say, I like this guy or I like this guy, depending on how much time I want to spend. This is the amount of time, how much time it takes you to do, and this is how much it costs. You want to be here, you want to be here, you don't want to be here because you spend a lot of time and you get nothing, right? Normally it goes like this. The more time you spend, the better the result is, but it's not always guaranteed. So it's like a data aggregator which allows clients to do the analysis.
Do you know who the trader is? I mean, excuse me, do you know who the bank is?
Yes, I always know who the bank is.
You do, but does the client know who
Yes.
the bank is?
Yes.
So why doesn't the client trade with the bank directly?
A client always trades with a bank directly. Never through us, but they make a decision through us. And the reason why is because then they always trade with a bank directly. But if they only trade with a bank, they only have their own executions.
Okay.
Right? But their own experience there's not a lot of data in it, right? So they want to know, is this bank good overall? Right? And Tradefeedr has an overall data verified both ways. So we know each trade, it's verified because it has two owners. So they both say that's a correct trade, right? So we know exactly that this trade is real. And we can calculate how good this bank is overall across all the clients because it gives you much more information. You can go and ask a bank yourself and they will say, we are the best in the world, right? And you will go to 10 banks and you will say, how good are you? And I say, we're fantastic, just only trade with us. We're like the best bank, like all the other people, they're not selling you good things. And what we do, we take aggregated verified data and we do it. And you can say, well, the banks may not be happy, right? The banks will say, why would I need a weird company to calculate how good I am? And what I'm telling you is that for each bank who is not happy, there is a bank who is happy. And how you define a bank who would be happy? They came to the market late, they think that they have a good product, but they're struggling to convince clients that their product is good. In which case, this is great for them because it can show to the market that actually some clients are trading with them, they're popular, the experience is good, and it's a verified data, so they can go to the investment committee and they can say, why don't we use this bank? The data shows it's a good bank, right? So it's kind of we're only a data company. We don't give people, all the trading is done by banks.
Yeah,
Right?
I apologize. I thought you were trying
No,
to be another market intermediary.
No.
You were going to have to make a market in 3,000 securities.
No.
I didn't understand how you do that.
No, we're only data intermediary. The only thing we do is data. We're not regulated, which is great. Like lots of costs removed.
And so, you help me understand, are the clients and banks not able to get this data from the exchanges?
This is OTC markets generally, but even on exchanges, you would have a problem. The problem you have is that exchange, if you talk about equity exchange, right, for example, exchange knows individual trades, but they don't know how they combine into one big execution.
Okay.
Because on exchange, all the trades are the same. There's no meaning behind them.
Okay.
But what we get from banks, we get the whole story of like all these individual executions are combined together. This is one trade. So you always think about, and that's actually the most important thing because nobody does, these days the transactions are so big that nobody does, I don't know, 5,000 Apple shares in one go. There's simply not enough liquidity. They do it slowly over time, and they want to do it with the guy who is the best in doing this, right? If you're like a big client like Fidelity, that's a classical example from equities. They say if Fidelity starts trading, then everybody says, oh yeah, let's jump ahead because it must be a very good order, right? And that actually goes back to your question, is that some people say like maybe we shouldn't have it in T plus 10 minutes, maybe we should have it in T plus 1 day.
So like, do you from a business model perspective, do you get money from
Banks.
banks, not hedge funds?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's
both-sided.
It's a network. It's a network. It's
Yeah.
clearly both-sided.
Yeah.
Banks are only interested if there are hedge funds, and hedge funds are only interested if there are banks, right?
Yep.
So what we did, sell side versus buy side, right? So what we did was say banks pay. Banks didn't like it. They didn't like it, right? Initially, they hated it.
Yep.
Eventually, they kind of got to the terms of that because you can exert more pressure on banks as a company because there are regulations. They're more used to paying, right? It's just you always select who is happy to pay, right? Banks are more used to paying, that's all. Like they just used to pay for things. Buy side is not used to be paying, right? They think that they're executing and that's enough for them to get everything else for free. That's just a culture, right? That's a culture, that's how they do it. There's nothing to do with just some people are used to paying. Nobody likes paying, but some people consider this as a cost of doing business, but some people just like, oh yeah, I just don't do it just as a matter of principle. So banks are used to paying, and that's why they're financing it, right? So I will skip that. So that's a pretty short presentation. So we've been again inspired by open banking. We tell everybody, especially our investors, but apart from open banking, there's not really much in common. The only thing in common is that we collect trades, we make market more transparent, and we allow big institutions to talk to each other. That's all we do. We are like in the middle. We allow big institutions to talk to each other, and as what I like is that we have more data than anybody else, so we don't have to be clever. We just have to be accurate, and we have to collect the data in a way which we are relevant and we're useful, right? That's pretty much it. And that's the only picture you need to know. Went to here to here.